This evening, I'm Mary Grace, the voice of sanity, to help you navigate politics, faith, culture, wellness, and world events. We're going to focus on wellness today, healing America and beyond, episode 11. This is our 11th show with me and Dr. Sean Baker. And many of you are here to see Dr. Sean Baker. He is very well known in the carnivore community and also for his work with Rivero.com. He and his team are doing some fabulous work with people all around the country, helping people to solve a lot of problems that the allopathic medical system has not really helped them with. And so we are very excited to have him here. Good to see you back, Dr. Baker. How are you doing?
Yeah. Hey, Mary, welcome. Thanks for having me here. Yeah. Is it, do you say it's our 11th one we've done of this?
Mhm. Yeah,
That's quite a few. Oh my gosh. We've
I
been doing
know.
a lot of these.
Yeah, and I think we started, so it's still 2025. So
Hmm.
this is our first year doing this, but it's the 11th episode. And so, it's because of our listeners that we have had success with this. We've gotten really good feedback. People love the Q&A. And hopefully it's helping people to make, well, we know it is. We're getting incredible feedback. People are making lasting, meaningful changes to their health. And that's in large part because of the groundbreaking work that you've done in this space, reversing metabolic disease with people giving them the education and the tools to do it. And it really is one of my passions to help people walk into their destiny and to give them the tools to do it. And you certainly are one of the best people to bring in to help accomplish that. And so, as people are coming in, I want to remind you that this is not medical advice. This is for education and entertainment purposes. Even if Dr. Baker is your doctor, he's not your doctor right now. He's just a doctor online. And and so we want to make that clear. And then also, as we discuss the things that we're discussing today, we will take some questions at the end. We do ask that you hold those questions. Please, when we announce the Q&A time, that's when we want you to put the questions in. Otherwise, they get lost in the chat. And as usual, we ask that you repost, share, retweet, that kind of thing, and tag other people. Also, if you didn't get the notification, if you're watching on replay and you're not sure how if you're on the list or whatever, please get on my mailing list. I'm at marygracemedia.com, and I'll put a link up here. You can get on the mailing list and we will send out an email. We had one that went out about an hour ago announcing that we were doing today's show. And so that way, no matter what platform you're on, you can check your email and see what's happening. So that's marygracemedia.com. Go to that website. That is also where you can find a lot of our sponsors in case you miss, let's say, if you're driving, whatever, you can't click the link. When we discuss different products and services, you can go to that website, marygracemedia.com, and get connected to the things that we're talking about today. So Dr. Baker is busy sharing and reposting because I just told everybody to do that. So he's doing that. And he he will be with us in just a second. We've got, let's see, we've got a bunch of people weighing in on YouTube, and we also have Delia over on Rumble. We're actually simulcasting on this, so we're doing my Facebook page, Dr. Baker's Facebook page, my Rumble, Dr. Baker's Rumble, my YouTube, Dr. Baker's. You get it. And so, whatever platform you're coming in from, we really appreciate your comments, and we want you to say hello. Dr. Baker, we discussed last time that we were going to dedicate an episode primarily to exercise and fitness. And so we wanted to do that today. And you had, you broke some news that I didn't know about your next project. You want to talk about that?
Well, I can't remember what the news was, but
Your book?
oh yeah, that's right. I've got a second book in work. Yeah, I'm about 3/4 of the way through. So, oh yeah, I got to get that done so I can get it to the publisher. I got to coming up against the deadline, but yeah, I mean, again, I think there's a lot of things that contribute to our health and aging well, as certainly I'm interested in, and hopefully there's people that are also interested in that are listening to this. And I think that, there's obviously nutrition is critically important. And what most people know me for the nutrition side of the crazy carnivore stuff, which
Mhm.
again, I think it is therapeutic. It is applicable. It helps a lot of people with a lot of things. And I think it's a wonderful, you know, option and tool for a lot of people. But I mean, there's other things. You know, sleep is important. Particularly, and I, the more I look at this, I think that exercise is probably the one of the biggest, if not the most important, levers of change. For when we age, and it distinguishes those that will age well and age well functionally from those that don't. Because it is kind of funny. You see these people that will say, well, these old people in Japan or these old people in Greece, Italy, they just kind of chill out and they relax and they have coffee in the sun and they don't, they just, they walk a little bit. That's all they do and they live a long time. So
Mm.
that's what we should do to live a long time. Well, the reality is, that's all they can do. That's all they can do is walk because they lost the capacity to all these other things. I can point you to another collection of really old people. And guess what they're doing? They're sitting around in a nursing home in a wheelchair in a urine-soaked diaper. Does that mean that's what you got to do to live long? I mean, it's kind of stupid in a way
Mhm.
because we point to old people and say, "Look what old people do. This is what it takes to be old." The reality is that you need to preserve your functional capacity and keep it as high as you possibly can for as long as you possibly can. And the best way to do that is, strength training and exercise.
Mhm.
And I can tell you, if you watch like an older person going up and down stairs, what do you see? Often they're leaning on the handrail. Often they're one leg at a time. They're just kind of slowly. And why that doesn't happen overnight. It happens slowly over time. And so what I would say is if you catch yourself lean on the handrail more, if you catch yourself having to you know, one leg, and not reciprocate your legs, you need to fix that. You need to and force
Mhm.
yourself to be able to do that. Like when my kids go up and down the stairs, they just run up and down the stairs. Now I don't do that because we got hardwood floors and it's slippery and I'm in my socks. I'm afraid I'll bust my butt, and I have done that. But I mean, when I
Yeah.
consciously, make an effort to reciprocate my gait, alternate feet, not just go up. And the problem for me is I got big feet and the stairs are a little narrow and I have to sometimes oblique it. Anyway, this is the kind of point is that
Yeah.
and the thing that, I'll point out is, it's, today I hit a 48-inch box jump, one step, 48-inch box. The highest I've hit, that is the highest I've ever jumped in my life, by the way. And I'm, just about turned 59 years of age. Now, I might have been able to do it had I tested it earlier in my 20s and 30s, probably. But I mean, as far as I've had these boxes for 20 years, and the highest one I've ever jumped on has been 48 inches. And I just hit it again tonight.
48-inch.
That's 4 feet.
Wow.
That's 4 feet off the ground.
I know.
Yeah.
That's, like, almost as tall as me.
Well, I'm sure you're like 5'4" or something like that. So not
Yeah.
quite, but yeah. So, I mean,
Still.
I might be able to jump onto your shoulders or close to it or something like that. But,
Oh my
you know,
goodness.
the point is, because I train to allow myself to do that. Now, there's people out there say, "Oh, you shouldn't push yourself so hard because you're older." And
Mhm.
that to me is harmful advice. And I wish physicians and people would stop doing that because
Mhm.
they're actively harming people by telling people to take it easy and slow down and don't push. Again, you've got to do it safely
Yeah.
and you've got to build up to it, but you need to get there and continue to keep that ceiling elevated. And the thing I'll say about nutrition with regard to this, I'm not in, good athletic shape and able to do things because I eat a carnivore diet. That does nothing to do with it. What a carnivore diet does is allows me to feel good enough so that I can exercise. But it's the exercise that's allowing all those things to happen. That's what's driving this.
Mhm.
And you can eat the best diet in the world, but if you sit on your butt all day, you're gonna decay and rot and rust out. And I mean,
Mhm.
I know there's people that are out there saying, "Well, you only get so many heartbeats in your life," and I don't, to me,
Mhm.
those are just stupid arguments. I mean, even if I were to say I only get so many heartbeats in my life, well, guess what happens when I get in physical shape? My resting heart rate drops down low, and most of the time I'm not exercising. Most of the time I'm at rest, and so I get less heartbeats in that time frame. So I would encourage all of your listeners to start to become athletic, become athletes. Even if you're not competing in a sport, you should have athletic capacities, the ability to jump and hop and skip and move and
Mhm.
pivot and turn and change directions and brake and decelerate, and move things quickly. I don't care how old you are. Be 90. You can regain some of those capacities back. And it might,
Yeah.
you may be a long way removed from that, but you can start to get back there. And the best thing obviously is not to lose it. You know,
Mhm.
I'm tenaciously fighting in my, near 60s. You know, I'll be 60 very soon. Got about
Yeah.
I turned 59 in a month, and so I'll have a year till I turn 60. And again,
That's young. I'm already 60.
what's that?
That's young. I'm already 60.
Yeah, well,
So,
I mean,
yeah.
again, but I mean, like I said, I'm breaking world records and hitting 48
Oh,
inch
yeah.
box jump, right?
Yeah. So do you I was looking for a video of your box jump. I know you had a video
I
of
just put it up on Instagram. It's right in there in my
you
most
did?
recent post.
Okay,
Yeah,
I'm
yeah, it's
gonna find
recent.
it. Alright, I wanna look at this. And then, is this let me see. We need you no, that's republic.com. Hold on a second. Where is it? Um,
there's on my Twitter. I mean, I
is
just
it
put it up
is
on
it
Twitter.
on your, is it on your stories or,
I think it's on I don't know how you find it.
let me
It's on
find
the
it.
main page, I guess. It's like the most recent
I
post.
know, for some reason.
Yeah,
Let me
I did a series of I did 36, 42, 44, 46, and finished with 48, and all of them were pretty easy, quite honestly. I probably could have went a little higher, but I just ran out of time. I literally
goodness.
got done doing power cleans, and I only had, like, 10 minutes left and before I had to go to an appointment. So
Alright,
I just
I'm
ran
not
and
finding it, but I'm
biceps.
gonna find it on do you put it on X too? Is it on X?
Here, I'll text let me just text
Yeah,
it.
just send
I'll
it to
just
me and I'll
text
load
it
it.
to you if I
So,
can.
now I wanted to tell you, boy, we've got a lot of people coming in today. Happy to see everybody here. Thank you for saying something in the chat. This is awesome. We've got a ton of people. I do see a question from somebody named Samira. Samira, hold your question. We want to take questions at the end of the show. And also like if you have a like a testimonial, that kind of thing, we don't want to miss it, but it's hard to go back and find them. So just, if we when we ask for questions, please repost whatever it is that you're doing. Just hold it till later. That would be awesome. And we're going to show this. Now, one of the things I wanted to say, so Dr. Baker, I don't know if you recall this, but a couple of months ago, I was talking about my dad. So I'm the caregiver for my stepdad. Okay, he's 88, and for years he was in the standard system with the VA. He was on all kinds of meds, prescriptions, etc. And then about 5 years ago, I was my when I started looking out for him. I That was my first goal, to get him off the drugs, and then, 2 years ago, he was pushing 200 pounds, he was, diabetes, high blood pressure, all that, but he's only 5'4". So, I put him I talked to him about it, he wanted to lose weight, got him on a ketogenic diet, right? So, he's down to, like, 159 now,
Mhm.
so 40 pounds lost. But last year he had a stroke. And I had been working with him in the garden and keeping him active and things like that. And that's one of the things that really helped him rehab the stroke. But you said something to me about the just the idea that walking is not enough, right? Because I was saying, I get him up, I get him walking, I get him doing little projects for me, but it really hit home. And it also hit home to me because I'm 60 and I'm his caregiver, so I have to be in shape. And so I've started getting in the gym with him. And I got to tell you, it's really he's really motivated. And I want to show people this video because Dr. Baker is talking about doing more than just walking, right? Pushing, pulling, lifting heavy things, doing explosive movements. So, mind you, this is 88 and he's just a year out from a stroke. And he was in the hospital total of about 20 days with hospital and rehab. Okay, so this is my now I want to show that doesn't show the end of the video. It somehow it scrunched it up, but I want to show this because I want you to see his face at the end. This is really important. I don't know why the program squished it like that, but let me just show this. I don't know if Dr. Baker can't see it. Okay. Just watch his face at the end. 88. Now, I love that. The little for those of you who can see it, he has this little smile at the end. So, Dr. Baker, it's so exciting because, the other thing is he uses a cane, sometimes he uses a walker, but when we were there, we were doing farmer carries with the kettlebells and things like that, and normally he would want me to help him walk around, but the more we did, the more confident he became, and, I reached out to help him and give him my arm, and he pushed me away, and, it's little things like that that, you just know you're making an impact. And so I wanted people to see this video because this is exactly what Dr. Baker's talking about, that the cultural mindset is as you get old, that's just what happens, that you just waste away, that you sit around, that you don't do anything, that you're just waiting to die. And I I'm taking a different approach. Taking a different approach with my dad. He's open to it. It's fun for him. He's not just sitting around all the time watching TV. He's definitely not sitting in a urine soaked diaper. And so I know there's people listening that are needing that little push. And maybe you've been buying into that message that this is just what happens when you get old. And that's just not it's not true. Not true.
Well, it happens prematurely. I mean, at the end of the day, we're all gonna go out,
Yeah.
not being able to do very much, but I mean, it is something that a lot of people start this process in their 30s and 40s.
Mhm.
Uh, and I will tell you that you can, dramatically impact the length of your life, the quality of that by maintaining these high capacities. Like I said, if you can sprint, walking's not gonna be hard. But if all you do is walk, walking one day is gonna get hard. I mean, eventually there is always gonna be a level of hardness in your life. And if walking up and
Mhm.
down the stairs is hard for you, well, then you're gonna stop walking up and down the stairs, and then you're just gonna walk, and
Yeah.
then that walking is gonna be hard, and then all you're gonna do is walk a short distance, and your heart and lungs will get out of shape, and your brain won't get as much blood perfusion. But if you can get out
Mhm.
on the track and you can run sprints and you can jump and you can triple jump and you can broad jump and you can triple broad jump and you can, power clean and box jump
Mm.
and do plyometrics,
I'm
in your
doing box
50s and
jumps.
60s. Yeah. Yeah. Good for you.
Yeah, I've started doing box jumps. So people said they couldn't see the video, which is annoying. Here, I'll
Mhm.
just show it right here because it's kind
Okay.
of exciting. I'm just gonna
Yeah.
show
Yeah.
the
I can
last
see it.
part of it.
Yeah. I saw the beginning, but I did not see the end. So
Okay.
yeah. Yeah,
So
look at him
here he
go. Yeah. And I
is.
love I
Yeah.
love him doing the the sled, the tank. I mean, I've got
Yeah.
one at the house and I use it quite a bit. It's a great tool.
It's very
For introducing
stable, right?
well,
I
yeah, it's
mean,
good for introducing sprinting,
yeah, and look at his
technique,
little
and
face.
good for him. Good
So
for
he's
him.
got that
Yeah.
smile and yeah, that's it's different obviously for somebody older, um but I'm doing that too, and I'm doing the box jumps and I'm, doing farmer carries and just like picking up a heavy kettlebell, putting it down,
Yeah.
going at a pace that's good for me. I have an autoimmune condition, so sometimes inflammation is my enemy, you know. Um and so I have to pace myself, but you really have inspired me, Dr. Baker. That's my point is that, because I want my mind, I want my body to be functioning at a really high level and not to be thinking, okay, decline, decline, decline is just inevitable,
Well,
right?
I think the thing is real important for people to understand is your brain, the function of your brain, your cognitive capacities, your memory, your dementia, uh, tendency is very much dictated and modified by how physically active you can be. When you're pumping blood through your heart rapidly, your brain is being well perfused and it's being well energized. And when you are sedentary, all you do is walk, your brain is going to basically start atrophying and dying on you. And then you're 60, 65 and you forget stuff. And, all of a sudden, You just, oh, it's just, I'm just getting old. I'm just getting old, and I can't move as fast.
Yeah.
I would, like I said, what was it? It was like, there's the poem. I think it's Dylan Thomas's "Rage Against the Dying of the Light."
Mhm.
That
Yeah.
one that we all learned
Yeah.
in whatever grade it was, high school or something like that.
I
And
don't
I
know
and
if
I,
anybody
I
learns it now, but yeah.
yeah, but I mean, I very much, you know, again, yes, eventually we're all going to succumb, but gosh, why not just preserve your function capacity and have fun in life? I cannot tell you how many like 65-year-olds come to my office as an orthopedic surgeon, retired, they worked their whole life, and now they can't do anything. They're in pain all the time. They spend most of their free time going to the doctor's office, going to from one appointment to the next, to the next, to the next. It's absolutely abysmal. Here's the other thing, and I'll just, while I'm on my
It's
soapbox.
almost like that's what gives them purpose
Well,
because
yeah, they do have that is their purpose, is to go to the doctor's appointment.
yeah. Yeah.
I saw recently, I was on X, and there was a physician who said, there's people saying, well, these doctors are just a bunch of drug chills and on and on and on. And
Mhm.
I'm obviously somewhat sympathetic to physicians because I've been there. I know what it's like. It's not so much straightforward like people think it is. But at the same time, he says, well, you know, in my practice, I tell people to lose weight. I tell people to exercise. I tell people to eat good. And they always tell me I don't have time or they don't do it. And so I end up giving them pills. So am I really a drug shill because they won't do it anyway?
Mhm.
And here's what I would say, and to that, because I get that sort of thing, and a lot
Mhm.
of people there, is that if I say I need to give you need surgery, guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to make sure you get that surgery. I'm going to, get your labs. I'm going to bring you to the hospital. I'm going to bring you to an OR. We provide all the facilities so that can happen. But if I say, hey, I think you should eat a better diet, what do? I don't do anything. There's no facility. There's no facilitation. There's no accountability. There's no daily support. Like if you set somebody up for surgery, there's millions of dollars at your disposal to get that person to the surgical center, to get that person, cleared for labs, to get all their appointments done, all that, do the surgery, do
Mhm.
the anesthesia, the hospital stay.
Yeah.
But when you say change your lifestyle, all you do is tell somebody. Like if I said, Mary, you need I think you should have a knee replacement. And then you said, "Oh, well, what should I do?" I said, "I don't know, figure it out. Go do it yourself." That ain't gonna
Mhm.
work, right? I mean, we're not, so when you tell somebody, "Hey, you need to change your diet, figure it out," you're not providing them any benefit. And so this is what we do at Rivero. I mean, we literally hold these people's hands, we keep them accountable, we talk to them on a damn near daily basis so that we can make those changes happen. And when you have physicians saying, "Well, I tried," what do you mean you tried? You told somebody to lose weight. That ain't doing it. Or
Mhm.
maybe now you stick them on a drug. But I mean, at the same time, you have to actually facilitate people getting healthy through lifestyle, not just say, go change your lifestyle and expect them to be able to do that on their own. Because a
Mhm.
lot of people, a lot of people say they can't, or they're too busy, they can't figure it out, or
Yeah.
there's too many distractions, they're not motivated, they're not held to account. And so I think that cop out excuse is, well, I tried, I told them to lose weight and they never did. So I just gave them the pills, in my view, is pretty weak. It's kind of weak
Yeah,
sauce. So
yeah.
that's
Well,
my
speaking of medication, I think this is a good
yeah,
time for one of the questions I wanted to ask you. The big thing in the news right now because of the funding, big pharma funding for GLP-1 agonists like Ozempic and
yeah,
Mounjaro is it's called GLP-1 agonist because of the mechanism in the brain that it targets. It's a peptide that targets that mechanism. And one of the things, I mean, you're the author of the carnivore diet, and a lot of people don't understand the fact that carnivore diet does the same thing while actually nourishing you. Can you go into that a little bit
mm,
and explain, why that helps people to get over their cravings and actually, you know,
yeah, yeah.
nourish their
Okay.
bodies?
So
The
there are,
difference.
yeah, so basically there are two major hormones that are called incretins in the gut. One we know of is GLP-1. It is a one that the drug try to mimic, right? And that is produced in the intestine, kind of at the sort of the end of the intestine. There's another drug called GIP, stands for gastric inhibitory polypeptide, or what it's also known as is glucose dependent insulinotropic polypeptide, which is important, that name. And these hormones are secreted by the gut in response to food macronutrients, particularly fat. Fat is a very powerful stimulator of GIP and GLP-1, and protein stimulates it as well. Carbohydrates stimulate it fairly weakly, right? Now, here's a kicker though. Both GLP-1 and GIP only are effective in its role in releasing insulin in the presence of high blood glucose, right? So that's why when you eat a bunch of fat, you don't have an insulin surge. You have a huge GIP surge, but because the blood glucose is low, it doesn't really do much, right? Now, it has obviously there's effects on the brain, there's effects on the gut motility. GIP, gastric inhibitory peptide, was named because it was discovered that it caused the gut to not empty as much. The stomach would not empty food up very quickly, so food would just be digested very slowly, and so that leads to some level of satiety. So when you have foods that are high in fat and high in protein, like a steak, you do get a pretty significant incretin effect, the GIP GLP effect, and it has effects on the brain. It has effects on gut motility. But in the absence of high glucose, it doesn't lead to a big insulin surge like it does with when you're consuming a mixed meal with a bunch of carbohydrates to raise your
Mhm.
glucose. So
Mhm.
that's part of the reason. The other thing is we know that like ketones also tend to tamp down the insulin secretion, and insulin is a storage hormone. Insulin is causing us to store muscle, to store fat, to store glycogen in our various tissues, the liver and the muscle primarily. So yeah, these incretin hormones, the GLP-1s, were, they sort of looked at these things and said, well, this is what happens with food. Let's see if we can isolate a part of that. And so now we have these drugs that in part do some of that. Obviously there's problems with side effects, and there's issues with, as soon as you come off of them, most people regain the weight. So it's one of these things. It's the typical pharma model. We put you on a drug and you stay on it for the rest of your life. Um, you know, are there people that successfully go on the drug, change their lifestyle, come off the drug and maintain the weight loss? Yes, I believe there are some. But for the majority of people, they're either going to take the drug, not make the lifestyle changes, or take the drug, not tolerate the drug, and then gain their weight back. So I think at the end of the day, you still
Mhm.
have to make the necessary lifestyle changes. And this is why you see, and there's people in the chat, I lost 100 pounds eating keto carnivore, and all those things. It happens all the
Mhm.
time. There's a whole bunch of stuff with the physiology, and it's very complicated, very complex. I'm kind of scratching the surface on some of this stuff, but yes, you definitely can strongly stimulate the incretin hormones, to include GLP-1, via like a carnivore diet. I mean, we know that fat and protein in particular, fat in particular, is a very powerful stimulant.
Interesting. So I think that Um, obviously, like, having, real food, as opposed to starving yourself is gonna be better in the long run, right? And one of the things that we see, for example, with people who go on the carnivore diet and people who go on, like a high-fat, animal-based ketogenic diet is you see, in addition to the weight loss, you see all of these reversals to health issues, autoimmune, obesity, which then the accompanying the side effects of that are that they lower their blood sugar, they lower their A1C, they reverse high blood pressure, and so it's like I think that obviously, you know, if somebody's looking for a quick fix without actually changing their habits, those GLP-1 agonists are gonna help them. But if people are looking to change and reverse metabolic problems, diseases, most of which are preventable, it seems to me that the obvious choice is to make a lifestyle change by changing the way that you eat, the way that you move, your priorities, and what you do on a day-to-day basis. That being said, do you think there's any value in somebody going or on any of those medications briefly or doing a microdose to help them get a little boost, especially if they've been dealing with disordered eating their entire lives, with binge eating, with really severe obesity. Have you seen cases where that type of thing will give them a boost to help them get to the next place where they're able to adopt a much better, healthier lifestyle choice?
Yeah, I mean, certainly. I mean, there certainly are people that are proponents of that microdosing, trying to the reason for microdosing is to minimize the side effects and does actually have an
Mhm.
impact. I mean, people are gonna have, the one of the problems that's out there, and this is with sort of this whole peptide thing in general, particularly through the compounding pharmacies, is a lot of people run into issues with, is how well is it compounded? Is it even
Mhm.
accurate? Things like that. So some of those are issues that are out there. And then again, there's no real trials on these. There's no real data that says, this microdose has been shown to show this. This is all kind of like, do it yourself cookbook stuff, which, for some people, hey, they can make it work.
Mhm.
At the end of the day, you're still going to have to make the decision that you're going to change your lifestyle and do those
Mhm.
things regardless.
Yeah.
I mean, you have to go into it that way. And it's something, and, like I said, at Rivera, we don't typically put people on GLP-1s, but in the event that, nothing else is working, it's something we consider as an option. And to my knowledge, I don't think I don't know if we've
Mhm.
started anyone on them yet, because we've had success without it. But,
Right.
yeah, I mean, it's one of those things that there are, risks and benefits to everything out there, all drugs, especially. And, it's like, if you can get enough benefit to justify the risk, and if nothing else, I mean, this is the argument for bariatric surgery. Like, we got people that are morbidly obese. They're 4, 5, 600 pounds. They can't lose weight. They're literally dying. Hey, let's go cut out half their stomach, and they'll lose weight. Now, yeah. I mean, and
Yeah.
then they have all kinds of problems for the rest of their life. But they
Mhm.
lost the weight, and maybe on net they'll live a little longer. Maybe their quality of life
Mhm.
is, well, I don't know. I mean, you lose weight. If you're walking around with an extra 300 pounds, losing 300 pounds is undoubtedly going to make you feel better.
Mhm.
Undoubtedly, that's going
Yeah.
to happen.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Well, and the thing, I think the key, let's get back to the exercise piece, because you're talking about getting stronger, putting on muscle. And obviously, people may not know this, but have increased muscle increases metabolism. It increases your body's energy requirements. So, going back to the lifestyle changes, you're advocating for a better way of eating, but then the other piece of it is exercise. So, can you talk about what you're seeing, not just with your clients, but in general when people start to add muscle, to build muscle, and is it a lot harder for people who are older? How can they really maximize that?
well, first of all, I will say there are a wide number of studies that show patients in their 80s and even 90s can put on muscle. There is no like expiration date on when you can put on muscle. You can put it on your 50, 60, 70, 80, 90,
Mhm.
even 100. So that should not dissuade you. I mean, what's going to limit you is energy, maybe pain, things like that. It's hard to train squats when your knees all hurt or your back's in pain. And so, but those people that I have seen that have long-term successfully gone from a sick, obese, diabetic, limited person to someone who is now vigorous, athletic, and able to you know, really live their life. Almost all of them, without exception, have adopted a mindset to start moving at the very least, and most of them will add strength training and activity of that nature because it's so incredibly powerful and so incredibly important. Putting on, I'm like I said, I'm researching this book. I believe the stat was for every 1 kilogram of lean muscle you add has a 10% mortality benefit. So that is to say, if you can add
Wow.
a kilo of muscle, you have lowered your risk for mortality by 10%. Now, it doesn't mean putting on 10 kilos is going to make you live forever, 100%, right? But I mean, there's an
Oh, come
additive
on.
effect, and there's an
Yeah.
additive effect that every little bit more muscle that you can put on will have benefits. And we know across the board, lean mass protects us from cancer, heart disease,
Mhm.
diabetes, dementia, frailty. I mean, on and I mean,
Yeah.
there's so
Yeah.
much data on this stuff. And so if you're not actively trying to put on muscle and get stronger, you are likely doing yourself a grave disservice. And I mean, and it's not easy. I mean, I got to tell you, I mean, so just, I'm a guy, I don't take drugs. I don't take TRT. I don't take any sort of, these sort of anabolic things that a lot of people do. A lot of people my age do take them. I personally don't feel it's right, but, so it's
Mhm.
hard. I mean, it's hard. I mean, I've got a lot of muscle. I'm 248 pounds, uh, you know, so I've got a lot of muscle mass. I mean, but I built that up over decades. And I started lifting weights when I was a 13-year-old kid.
Mhm.
It's 46, almost 46 years ago, and I never stopped, and I never plan on stopping. So I mean, obviously, the best time to start was when you were young or yesterday. But if you haven't, start today. Don't wait. I mean, this is a thing that its
Mhm.
benefits are enormous.
So, you're talking this reminds me of I don't know, do you know the guy on X? His name is Hal Cranmer,
Yeah.
and, okay, he has these nursing home facilities in Arizona, and it's called A Paradise for Parents. You guys can look it up, paradiseforparents.com, and he is actually, uh sending people home from memory care, because he is using a ketogenic, slash carnivore diet on his with his residents. And, it's quite something. I've actually interviewed him before, and he has 5 locations out there in Arizona, and he's definitely breaking the paradigm because he's literally like, most people go into assisted living and that's their last home. And he has people who are losing weight, who are regaining their memory and ability to function on their own. And it's because of changing their diet and lifestyle. It's amazing. And so that's exactly what you're talking about. I'm gonna share the screen here just so people can see, because I think people are going to be interested in this, especially if you are in Arizona, if you have elderly parents or if you're looking for, um, alternatives. But let me find it here. Okay, so I'll just show you really quickly. This is what it is, and it is, right there in Arizona, and they have, not everybody's doing what needs to be done. Let me see, is it so
Do
they
you
have
have a parent or relative that you worry about? Someone who
oh,
may
that's
seem
kinda
okay
long.
some of
Hold
the
on.
time, but
Ah!
every so often does something that's unsafe or puts them at risk? We would like to help you about them,
Okay, I didn't wanna
but
run
not
his
just
hold
by
on.
locking them up.
Ah! I don't wanna run his whole ad, but basically, go to his website and, check it out, paradiseforparents.com. He's doing amazing things, and these are independent nursing homes. I don't know, how he runs things logistically, but it's pretty cool. It's right in line with what Dr. Baker is talking about, and before we go any further, I do wanna show Dr. Baker's, um video of his, box jumps. So let me grab that. I am my own producer here, so I have to always give credit to this screen. Like, let me find it. Let's see. Tab. Do I have
I
to
think I, I
be
think I texted it to you, so it might be there.
Yep, yep, here we go. Now, the thing is, let me see if I can get it full screen in X. That's the challenge here. Uh,
While you're doing it,
this
well, I
is
will
where
comment on Hal
Yeah,
while
go
you're doing
ahead.
that. I mean, I
Yeah,
I
talk
know
about
Hal.
how
I him 3 or 4 years ago. I was one of the first guys to actually sort of interview the guy, and what
Okay,
he's doing is tremendous. I mean,
phenomenal.
he puts his patients on, high protein, carnivore, ketogenic style diets. He gets them working out, he gets them stronger, he gets them moving, he gets them out in the
Yeah.
sun. I think he's had some red light stuff to him, and as he's actually had patients that were basically sent to him basically to die. Basically, that's what you stick people
Yeah.
in nursing homes and let them go there till they die. But his goal was like, no, that's not the right thing. Let's see if we can rehab some of these people. And he had, I remember he had one woman that was sent there. And a lot of these nursing homes will get these morbidly obese people that are 600 pounds and nobody knows what to do with. And he had a woman that lost 200 pounds in a year under his care. And I mean, and just kind of returned to home. But I mean, the exciting part is, these are younger people that lose weight, but he does have some people that go there for dementia, early dementia.
Yeah.
And he's had a couple successes with those folks too, where they are now, because they've changed their lifestyle, they're eating better, they're sleeping better, they're exercising, their dementia has reversed, which I think is incredibly cool. I mean, this is, there's folks like Dale Bredesen at UCSF who's been, talking about that nutrition and diet about this. But I think there is so much more we can do that we don't do, but it takes time and support and effort. And it's not just here, take this pill and see me in 3 months. That's not,
It does
that's not
take
the answer.
effort. Yeah. I'm going to show your video now and hopefully I can get this to work.
Okay.
Let me see.
Oh, there, right.
I'm trying to dunk
Yeah.
a
So
basketball at age 60. I'm 59 now, or almost 59.
looks like it's full screen. Looks like it's not showing, but
Can we see it?
46, and then finishing
no,
out
I
with
can't see it. I could see it when you had it on the partial.
Oh, okay.
going to work
So
on some
I'm just doing some
technique,
cleans.
working on my front
All right, hold on. Let's go back so you can
I'm
see
trying
it. There we go.
I'm trying to dunk a
So it's,
basketball at age
36 inch, 42 inch. I'm just walking up and jumping pretty easily. 44, there's 46.
46,
And then the last
finishing
one I
out
hit was 48. So that's not bad. It's 4 feet in the air.
work on some clean technique.
And then, again,
about
that's
to
it.
You're about to hit the ceiling there.
Yeah, that's why I put my hands up so I don't whack my head on the ceiling.
Oh,
I'm
gosh.
getting up there a little bit. But yeah. So it's kind of like I got to be careful. I only got so much room. Unfortunately, it's like wet and cold and rainy here for the next 5 months or something like that. So I got to do a lot of stuff indoor.
You better put the next box outside, Dr. Baker. We don't want you to you either that or get a hard hat.
Yeah. Well, I usually increase. The next thing I'll do is 50 inches. So I'll go by 2 inches at a time because I've got little
nice.
devices to do that.
Well, believe it or not, we're past the time in the show where we focus on some of our sponsors. So let's take a quick break. We'll talk about a little bit more about Rivero. Tell our listeners about what you have there, and then we'll jump over to a couple more of our sponsors for today.
Sure. Well, obviously, Rivero is our healthcare company. We basically take people that are, sick and suffering from chronic diseases, metabolic disease, autoimmune disease, so on and so forth. And we basically hold your hand. We, help you to make the changes that are going to get you healthy. And, obviously we have physicians that will be, checking labs and checking biomarkers on a daily basis. We just have wonderful success rates. I mean, we've had some, we are, I think on the website where you can look at some of the success rates we've had, we are, I think, I don't know if it's kicked off yet. I know there's going to be a kind of a New Year's sale type thing to save. You save a little bit of money on that. So I think that's coming up. So if somebody wants to, for me, what a better Christmas gift than getting somebody healthy, somebody you love healthy. I mean, that's a pretty darn good thing. Like I said, it's one of those things that, once you adopt this, and this is a thing, how do you consistently do it indefinitely? And that's the real challenge of all this stuff. And I think this is what we work on with Rivero, is getting people to effectively empower themselves so they can do that. And it's kind of addicting in a way, in a good way, that you're like, hey, I like feeling good. This is really cool. And I want to continue to
I think so. Yeah. We have, I mentioned last time we were here, Delia, she's one of my longtime listeners, and she's over on Rumble. She's one of our moderators. She just said, happy, successful Rivero client for the last 5 months and counting. So, you're getting a lot of comments like that, a lot of testimonials. And Delia is a runner. I know she's run marathons in the past. And so it really is important for her to be healthy and to be not just surviving, but thriving. And so this is excellent news. Okay, we're gonna take a quick break here. I'm gonna take Dr. Baker off camera for a second, and then we'll come back and do some Q&A. So this is the time to queue up your questions. Preface your questions. Preface, I'm glad you got that. Preface your questions with triple Q, and we'll be right back with Dr. Baker, and want to share a couple things with you guys. So one of the things that our listeners love here is finding very high quality products, and that is something that we offer. Our sponsor today, our main sponsor, is griddownchowdown.com. And this is a wonderful company that's based right in the US. This is a freeze dried beef product. They also make jerky, but this is ground beef. You put this in water, you reconstitute it, it makes ground beef that you use for any ground beef recipe. It's grass fed, grass finished, farmed and processed in the USA. These farms are owned by American ranchers, and the guys who run the company live out in Oklahoma. I've met them, I've talked to them. And this is incredible because if you look at the package, it has one ingredient, and that ingredient is beef. And so that's what people are looking for when you talk about clean eating and getting away from highly processed foods. You can't get any cleaner than uh, an item that is just beef. So go to griddownchowdown.com. Use promo code Mary Grace. They have a great subscribe and save option over there. They do have jerky now. Like I said, they have pre-made patties, and we get a lot of orders from you guys who are watching this show. Obviously, it's where your focus is on the carnivore diet. So, use this for prepping, for stockpiling, or for your weekly taco meal, whatever it is you want to do. Griddownchowdown.com. And they started actually during the pandemic. They had they were starting to stockpile beef, and then they had a power outage, and they lost a whole freezer full of beef. And they have families to feed, and so they started going the freeze dried route. And so because of that, because of their power outage, you now have the option to get a wonderful freeze dried, grass fed, grass finished beef for you and your family. It's pretty cool. Keep in mind, please, that this is a locally owned business. They don't have the turnaround times of the big box stores and delivery companies. So please be patient with them when you put in an order. And if you ever have any problems at all, contact them or contact me, info@marygracemedia.com. We'll get to the bottom of it. But we do so appreciate your supporting and helping. Every time you purchase from this company, you are helping to save American farm and ranch land. So I appreciate it. Some people are scanning the code there. It is griddownchowdown.com. Use promo code Mary Grace. And the other thing I wanted to highlight today, we have another sponsor. This is Mary Grace Essentials store. And some people do take supplements. The problem is you don't know the purity and efficacy of some of the supplements you're getting from some of these big box stores, from some of these online providers or retailers. And so what we do at Mary Grace Essentials is we work directly with the manufacturers. So when you get a product like from Thorne or Pure Encapsulations, it's coming directly from them. Our prices are competitive. We have subscribe and save models. We offer free shipping. It's right there at Mary Grace Essentials. Just go to maryrgracewellness.gethealthy.store. If that's a mouthful, you can go directly to my website, marygracemedia.com, and you can click on the wellness store, the essential store from there. So it's marygracewellness.gethealthy.store, or go right over to my website, marygracemedia.com, and get to the store from there. We really do appreciate you supporting and being here. And hopefully, if you do choose supplements, you're going to choose the pure supplements that are coming to you from the actual manufacturer and not counterfeit supplements. We don't want you to hurt yourself trying to get healthy. So we're going to come right back to our show here, and we're going to bring Dr. Baker back on, and hopefully we'll be able to answer, well, he'll be able to answer some of your questions. There's been some comments on YouTube about the lag in the video, and there is a little bit of lag on, I think, on Dr. Baker's end. That's maybe not you, it maybe is us. And so we apologize, but we do appreciate you tuning in. We thank you very much for being here. and we will do our best to fix that down the road. All right, we've got a ton of questions coming in here. Um, Dr. Baker, are you able to see? All right, somebody has a question about can't afford beef. Um, yeah, I buy ground beef, so there's that. You don't have to buy steaks. I will say that. You can get beef without buying steak. It's nutritionally great. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, again, it depends on where you live. I don't know what U.S. or elsewhere, but I mean, generally, you can still find ground beef at a reasonable price, and there's nothing wrong with ground beef. And in fact, the only reason I don't eat more ground beef is because I get people sending me steaks for free. I mean, that's just the
Oh,
truth,
I
the
need
cold,
to join
hard,
that
honest
club.
truth. Yeah, no, it's a good club to be in. I got, you know, I'm not complaining at all, but I mean, a lot of
Yeah.
steaks in my freezer. I just got to eat them up. But I mean, I like ground beef. I'll eat a lot of it. Sometimes I prefer ground beef to a steak from time to time. But yeah, I mean, you know, you could obviously chicken and pork, and those things are going to be a little more cheap. The downsides, you know, are that, you know, there's less fat in there. If you're on a truly low carb, you need the fat for energy. There's some concern around the feed quality that goes into these monogastric animals. You know, cows have you know, they're ruminant animals, so they have a different digestive system than say a pig or a chicken does or a human does, and so we have
Mhm.
different issues with
Yeah.
that. So I think you know, beef and lamb, in my view, are you know, I think you should get at least some of that in your diet. You know, if you're
Mhm.
on like a carnivorous diet or something like that, because it is so nutritious, and there's a lot of things that you get more abundantly in beef than you would in, say, chicken. I mean, I have seen people that have, you know, supplemented in chicken and fish and pork, assuming they tolerate. Some people just don't tolerate it well, but those things can work, you know,
Yeah.
well as well if you're for whatever reason dead set on doing a carnivore diet. I mean, you know, I mean, eggs and dairy products are also quote unquote carnivore, and they can be acceptable. Again, caveats being that some people do better or worse depending on their tolerance, I suppose. But it doesn't, you know, in my view, in my experience, and what I've talked to many people end up saving money by eating you know, full meat diet, just because they don't need as much, and they cut down all the waste and all the garbage and all the stuff, all the, you know, organic vegetables that end up in the trash half the time, and
Mhm.
they don't get eaten,
Yeah.
or the stuff
Yeah.
that just doesn't. The other thing you have to realize is all these fiber rich foods, and I'm going to knock on fiber a little bit. I know some people get offended when I do this, but most of that fiber ends up in the toilet. I mean, you're literally nourishing your toilet, your septic tank. You're not really nourishing your body. So, I mean, when you're eating meat, it's being fully digested and absorbed into the cells. The purpose of eating. And, you know, I mean, I don't think that the purpose of eating is to have bigger bowel movements and feed the septic system.
Interesting.
Again, this is a
Yeah.
controversial. Obviously, I get that. People are saying, oh, no, we've got all this epidemiologic data that associates fiber consumption with good outcomes. And that's true. But again, there's, you know, if you think about why is fiber beneficial? Well, it prevents glucose excursions, it provides satiety, you know, it's associated with
Mhm.
a higher quality diet. And you can say, well, can I replicate those particular, you know, butyric acid, can I replicate those things another way? And the answer is yes. You can get satiety through a carnivore diet. You can lose weight with a carnivore diet. You can decrease your blood glucose on a carnivore diet. You can produce short chain fatty acids on a carnivore diet. So, I mean, it's like the benefits are not because you have undigested wood pulp sitting in your gut. That's not what's actually making you healthier or live longer. It's these knock-on effects and maybe the things it's displacing, but you can get those same effects
Yeah.
alternatively. So,
That was a good rant. Mic drop. I wanted to, speaking of stomachs, okay, or gut, I wanna go back to what you were saying about the ruminant animals, because for me, one of the things that helped me to get over the hump, um, when deciding to pursue carnivore way of eating, something you said about the cows is that they're ruminants and that they have these, multiple stomachs. And this is what was explained to me, and this is what really helped me, because I was caught up on the idea that you have to have grass fed, grass finished, the perfect beef in order to go carnivore. And then I found out a little bit more about the landscape of a cow's stomach, which is that it actually, because it's a ruminant animal and it has 4 stomachs, the cow can handle more toxins than we can. And this is what you were saying about the other animals like pork or chicken. They don't have the multiple stomachs, and so if they're eating junk, it's less likely to be processed through their stomachs, and it's more likely to end up in you as a human being consumer. Whereas with a cow, those toxins are actually being dealt with in the stomach and through the stomach bacteria of the cow. And so if you're not getting the perfectly raised, grass-fed, regenerative, grass-finished beef, you're probably going to be okay, because the cow takes care of a lot of that detox for you. Is that something that you can weigh on a little bit? It was very freeing for me to get that information.
Yeah, I mean, you've kind of described it in general. Yes, I mean the multi-chambered stomach that a cow has, the rumen, does allow them to have a broader variety of diet without it affecting the meat. Whereas a chicken or a pig will look very much like what they're fed in metabolically and
Mhm.
biochemically, I suppose. And so that may have deleterious effects to people. I mean, I know there's people that are like very sort of anti seed oil, and because of the various uh, it's controversial,
Yeah.
but when you
Yeah.
eat a pig or a chicken, maybe you're more likely eating you know fats that are more similar to seed oils. That also is
Mhm.
debatable and controversial. I think most people would agree that a cow is going to have the best buffering system against those types of things. So, but you're right. I mean, it doesn't seem to matter if you eat grass finished or grain finished when it comes to health
Mhm.
outcomes. I mean, I've seen that for now pretty much a decade. But looking at thousands and thousands of people, there's been a couple studies on this that show the same thing. And so I tend not to worry about it too much. I mean, given that there are individuals that will have an individual preference or an individual response, and so you just have to keep that in mind. But you can't make a broad brush
Mhm.
blanket recommendation that says everybody has to eat a grass finished animal for this diet to work. That's just not
Right.
the
Yeah.
case.
And one thing that, for people who are worried about the sourcing of ground beef, for example, or what else goes into it, it is possible to grind your own meat. And it's not that complicated. If you have a KitchenAid mixer, you can get an attachment. You can get a meat grinder, you can get a handheld metal grinder. And so, if you're worried about the cleanliness, that's one thing you can do as well. I want to jump to another question. And so this is more of a fitness question. David on YouTube is saying, "What advice would Dr. Baker have for someone who had and has tight Achilles and has just ruptured one?" Ouch. Ouch.
Okay, well, sorry about the rupture. I mean, gosh, that's an issue. I used to repair ruptured Achilles tendons. I mean, there's an argument to treat it surgically versus non-surgically. I mean, I think most orthopedic surgeons would still recommend repair, although there's people that disagree. But again, this is something that assuming whatever you want to, however you're going to deal with it, whether you're going to repair it or not, you need to still work on those properties. Because you see me jumping up on boxes and people are saying, oh, you're going to blow out your Achilles tendon because and the reality is, certainly there's a lot of people that do and can because they're jumping too high, but because they have not prepared their body to land properly, and they have not
Mm.
prepared the tendon quality. And that, a lot of it has to do with, what I would do is I would look up something called extensive plyometrics. And I would also look up the Plyos Plus program. A friend of mine, Matt Watson, he's a former high level high jumper that has been really doing a lot of interesting stuff around with regard to plyometrics and return to play.
What's the
And
program?
it's called Plus Plyos. Plus, like plus or minus. So plus and then Plyos, Plyos,
Hmm.
Plyos, plus Plyos. And I think that's a good, solid sort of framework to start to come back from. Now, obviously, you've got to let it heal, whatever, however you end up treating it, either non-operatively. Then the other thing that's important to remember is our tissue quality is impacted by what we eat. I mean, just like an animal, you can talk to anybody that works in a butcher shop, a slaughterhouse, they can see the meat cuts differently depending on what's the animal's fed, right?
Mhm.
And our tissue property have the same thing. You know, if we feed ourselves a diet of garbage, our tissues is going to get weaker. It's going to tear more easily. So we have to feed ourselves properly. So this is where I think a carnivore or similar diet is going to be a really, really beneficial thing to help you repair that stuff. But not only do that, but then as you progress to doing the extensive plyometrics and eventually the intensive plyometrics and jumping and all that stuff, that you have the building blocks to continue to make those adaptations that are occurring, because you know the muscles, the tendons, the ligaments all are adapting to what we throw at them. And when we just sit on our butt, guess what the adaptation is? It just gets weaker, right? Guess
That
what
makes
happens to our
sense.
cartilage
Yeah.
when we don't squat down and we don't use our knees? They just get weaker and they fall apart and they crumble away.
Mhm.
Your body needs to see force to maintain its integrity. And that's the thing that I think a lot of people get lost on when they get older, because a lot of people have lost that integrity and then they get hurt. So you need to get that back. You might have to start at it at a very, very slow, very careful, methodical place. You know, I tell people to start bouncing. You know, even if you don't even leave the ground, just bounce in place, sit down and bounce your leg off the ground. You know, tap your foot on the ground up and down. Build that up, and then you can start to jump an inch off the ground. You know, land with 2 feet, and then do it with one. Then change. Then exchange your feet. You know, move them back and forth, and then hop on one leg. If you can hop, that's the hardest thing, is hopping high and far on one leg repeatedly. Incredibly challenging. That is, it's little kids can do it, young kids can do it, but once you
Yeah.
start getting older, that's probably the pinnacle of athletic ability in many ways. You see some people that can, like, on one leg hop over 3-foot high hurdles repeatedly. Like you look at guys like Linford Christie, who was an Olympian, hopping down the track on one leg, clearing
It's
3-foot hurdles
amazing.
with one leg. It's
That's
incredible.
crazy. That's crazy. You know what else is challenging is skipping. Do you know there are people who can't skip?
Of course, yeah. And again,
Like,
skipping
and
is a good thing. Skipping is
yeah.
I skip all the time. I skip, well, it's part of my track warm up. I go out and skip. I
Okay.
do skips,
Okay.
skips for height, skip for distance. But again, you got to build up to this stuff. You got tight
Yeah.
Achilles and a ruptured Achilles. You're not ready to start
Mhm.
skipping yet. You got to eat right, and you got to start just bouncing on the ground, light. You might have to do that for 6 months, and then you
So
can
no
start doing
skipping
a little
yet
bit of jump.
and no jumping rope.
Not in his situation, but other people maybe, depending on how old they are
Yeah.
and where they're at.
Yeah, I started really low with the box jumps, like 6 inches, you know? So,
Yeah.
but I see David has another question, but let's come back to David so that other people can get a chance. That was a good question, David. We hope you get better soon if that's you. And let's go to Facebook. Craig on Facebook. Been keto for 2 years, lost 75 kgs, weight loss has stalled. Could this be dairy? I eat cheese most days. P.S. My son hasn't had an admission for his bipolar since getting ketones under control. Well, so we got like a testimonial, 2 testimonials, but then a question about weight loss stall.
Mhm.
Congratulations on your son. That's a big deal. Mental health and keto and ketones is something we've talked about a little bit here. It really helped my anxiety. But the question is stalling after a 75 kg weight loss. Do you think dairy could be the culprit? I think I know the answer.
Well, then share.
I think that I'm going to see if I have been paying attention. This is my quiz time. I think that some people cannot handle dairy because it can be inflammatory. Dairy is attractive to people, and it can be a little bit of a craving food because of the casomorphines that give you that good feeling that you have, like when eating ice cream or yogurt or things like that. But if you are stalling and you're not losing weight, dairy could well be the culprit. How did I do?
Yeah, I mean, those are all true. Yeah, I mean,
Okay.
dairy is. I mean, what is when we think about what is the purpose of dairy? It's to grow
To
stuff, right?
to grow
Grow things,
things,
right?
little
Grow things,
baby
right? They
animals,
take
right?
little things and make them bigger, right? So dairy is
Yeah.
designed for us to. Back when we were talking about the incretin hormones, dairy hugely stimulates these insulin-producing incretin hormones. It's a huge stimulant of insulin. Again, caveat, in the presence of higher glucose, right? You need glucose 110, 120 or higher for it to be effective. Um, so yeah, I mean, it could be dairy. It could be that, you lost a bunch of weight and you're still eating the same thing you always ate, and now you weigh 100 pounds less or 75 pounds. There's less of you. There's less. You're a smaller animal. You need less food. I know people want to have this fantasy that you can just eat and eat and eat and eat and eat and never gain weight. That's not the reality. I mean, it might work for a while, and it does work for a while for some people, particularly when they're way overweight. They just feel like they can eat until they're full and they're satiated and they're not hungry and they lose weight. But there's a point where that's going to catch up, and you're going to come to this sort of homeostatic part where you probably are the so-called stall, and then you got to do the other things. I personally, I mean, obviously, there are other levers you can pull. I mean, sleep is a lever. Exercise activity is such an important lever. Personally, I'd rather, for me, I'd rather eat more and be able to and do a little working out. I mean, that would be my preference because I enjoy the activity. And you need to, I don't care who you are. If you don't like exercise and activity, figure out how to make it enjoyable. It's not negotiable. You need to figure it out, right? I don't care if it's dancing. I don't care if it's hiking. I don't care if you got to stop sitting on your butt all day. And I'm not saying you are, but I mean, this is something, it's non-negotiable. Figure it out, even if you don't like it. Figure out a way to make it enjoyable. It's so incredibly important. It's going to have so many beneficial effects. Turning some of that tissue into lean mass muscle is going to have another positive impact. It's going to make you be a little bit more metabolically efficient. You're going to be able to suck out energy out of your, suck out glucose out of your bloodstream more effectively. You'll be able to metabolize a little better. So those are some of the things I would think about. But I mean, if you're a smaller dog, I have two dogs. Sasha weighs 60 pounds, Maximus weighs 20. Guess who eats more food? Guess who I feed more? I feed my big dog more food. I feed my little dog less food. Same thing with humans. When you get to be a smaller human, when you were 75 pounds heavier, you needed more food. Now that you're smaller, you need less food. So just eat a little less. Get used to not thinking about being full all the time. I think that's an important concept. You don't have to be hungry all the time, but don't eat until you're like, stuffed. Just get used to saying, hey, and just give it time. I struggle with that because I eat like a friggin' wolf. I just wolf everything down. And I mean, I'll throw down a 3-pound steak in 12 minutes, and
Yeah.
so then
Not me.
satiety doesn't kick in yet. So there's people that they tell you to eat slowly, and that's true. And I don't like doing it. I still eat fast.
So you're
but I
what's
mean,
called a volume eater, right? Is that what that? Yeah, I'm the opposite of that. I have to really focus. Like I have to track my macros to make sure I'm getting enough food.
yeah, I don't have that problem.
Yeah, so, but there's a comment that I think goes along with what you're saying, on YouTube. Somebody says the real key to carnivore is OMAD, which is 1 meal a day, not cheating, because once you add the small amounts of other things, you activate the hunger signals and end up feeling hungry. So I think there's some merit to that. I think some people, though, like me, OMAD might not be the best thing because again, it's not always easy for me even to get enough food. And so if I try to limit it to sort of a 6 to 8 hour window, it's even harder for me. But, and then also they say with women, too much fasting it maybe is too much of a stress thing. It's can really increase cortisol. So what do you think about that, Dr. Baker? Well, it's not really a question, but it's a common talking point with carnivore is 1 meal a day.
Again, it can be an effective strategy for weight loss for sure. Is it something? Is it effective for putting on muscle? Probably not. And again, I would like to see people put on muscle as much as I'd like to see them lose weight. And so, I mean, if you look at the conventional literature on meal frequency and muscle gain, most people are going to argue something like 4 meals a day is going to be optimal. Now, obviously, this doesn't necessarily jive with carnivore in a lot of ways. And I get people that, when I get somebody who's real skinny or under-muscled or having trouble hanging on to weight, then I'll tell them to eat more frequently. Many of the people come to carnivore because they're fat, overweight, diabetic, whatever, and then they lose that weight. And so the infrequent meal pattern tends to work. I think most people end up doing about 2 meals a day. That's been a pattern that I've personally adopted for many, many years, and it generally revolves. And I'm thinking I've not even eaten yet today. It's kind of funny. It's like
Oh,
4:30 in the afternoon here. I've yet to eat. I've got a steak cooking. I was busy this morning. I didn't get a chance. I worked out. I just had a weird day where I couldn't get my morning. I usually have a meal around 11, but I just didn't get to do it today. So I'm
d- d-
thinking about that.
okay.
I'm nice, and I'm going to enjoy the heck out of my food.
Mhm.
French used to say, or still say, hunger is the best sauce, and because things
Mhm.
taste better when you're hungry, right?
Yeah. Do you do a reverse sear? I'm assuming that you're slow.
Yeah, I'm just sous vide right now. I got it in the sous vide,
Oh,
and so
okay.
it'll
Okay.
be cooked on the inside. I'll just throw it out in the grill and sear it real quick in that little 1500-degree grill I
Excellent.
got.
Excellent.
Take me about
Um,
3 minutes to get it ready, and then about 5 minutes after that, it'll be in my mouth. So
Now here's an interesting comment too about just the cost of food. Someone says the psychology of realizing that one steak for $10 to $20 is still cheaper than $10 to $20 worth of junk. That's really like you were saying, your groceries get more affordable because you're not adding all of this stuff.
well,
And if you do pound
yeah.
for pound, junk food is very expensive.
No, it is, and the other thing is you've gotta realize why are you eating in the first place? It is to nourish your body, is to provide those life-giving, life-sustaining
Mm.
nutrients, and when
Yeah.
you eat garbage or stuff that's just gonna fill up your toilet, you are literally wasting money. You're just it's yeah, carnivore diet is not that expensive, and for many people, it's very cheap for those reasons. Now, again, if you're eating prime ribeye steaks every day, yeah, sure, it's a hell of a lot expensive. But if you're eating, just regular stuff, ground beef, eggs, things like that, most people save money.
Excellent. We have a testimonial. I want to read this. This is fantastic. Mary on Facebook, uh, 45 pounds since January. I'm thinking lost. Of all, oh, cat, sorry. Of all off off all statins, blood pressure meds, all medicine is gone. Congratulations, good job. All blood work is perfect. I feel great and almost 59. Best thing I've ever done. Great and easy diet. I do cheat and still drink red wine every now and then. And then we eat out. I'll eat a little carbs. I love this way of life. And then go USAF doc. So, fantastic. Well done. Great job, Mary. That's really fantastic. Um, and let's see if we have any more questions. We might does so okay, here's a question. Does salt help digest poison? I'm assuming you mean maybe the toxins from some of the foods you're eating. Oh, I don't know. Maybe we don't know that that
Yeah, the context.
the context. We don't have
I
the
don't.
context.
The
Okay.
salt digest poison. I don't.
Yeah,
I
I
don't.
think we
I
need
don't know.
more information. Yeah, we're gonna skip that. Okay, so question: how do you explain that? This is on YouTube. Some people have developed a strong dislike for the taste of red meat after eating largely vegetarian, flexitarian for several decades. Can they change that? I hope so, because you're really missing out.
Yeah, I mean, you certainly can, and people do. I mean, it's one of those things where people often they have an emotional response to food. Some people, if they've done it for sort of perceived ethical reasons, or just something there's this sort of conditioned flavor aversion where something bad happened to you when you ate something and tasted something, then you associate that with that bad thing all the time. So sometimes it's a disconnect between the actual what it tastes like and how your brain processes that taste. This is like why an animal, when it eats something that makes it very sick, it'll never eat it again because it knows, hey, this is something I gotta avoid. So I mean, yeah, I mean, you can sort of, uh, you know, disguise the taste for a while, heavily sauce it, heavily season it, change play with the texture. There's all kinds of things. Some people, you know, like a certain texture, crunchy, crispy, not chewy, not the
Mhm.
fat, so you can play with those things and figure out how to do it little by little and add it in and then just slowly develop that taste. I mean, it's not everybody that can go from being a vegan to go out in there and eating raw
Mhm.
steaks, or rare steaks at a steakhouse. I mean, you see that from time to time, but
Yeah.
a lot of people really have to just sort of incrementally dose it in little by little. And a lot of people, that's why a lot of them start with eggs and fish, and a lot of them they perceive it as oh, well, the fish is a stupid animal, so I could eat that one, but the cow's a little smarter, and I don't want to eat that one. And so, I mean, it's one of those things that
Yeah.
um, it's absolutely overcomable, you know. And
Mhm.
if you think about
Yeah,
what do I, maybe it's a coppery taste, maybe it's it could be the way the way the meat is prepared. And there are so many ways to make meat taste very differently, different ways, and you
sure,
can
yeah.
figure
And
that out.
some of it could, yeah, I think the cooking, the way of cooking it can be a challenge, and one thing I would say too is if you're not good at cooking, or if you're just starting to cook meat, it's really a good idea to go, and get yourself some lessons, right? There's a chef that I really like on YouTube. He's also on X. It's Andrew Gruel,
Okay.
Gruel, and he has really good tutorials on just basic cooking. And so if you learn the right way to cook a piece of meat, it will make a big difference. I mean, if you're just throwing your meat in a pan, and it's basically like boiling, because you don't know how to sear or saute, you're gonna hate it. Just trust me on that. You don't wanna do that. So learn proper cooking techniques, and that will take you a long way toward being able to stomach and, develop a palate for those things. Uh, we do have another question. We're going back to David. He has a question. What advice would you have for women in their 50s who want to lose a lot of weight after being very sick for years? Women in their 50s.
Well, I mean, the same as I would for a woman in their 20s or a man in their 20s. I mean, you have to take care of the major things that drive health. And this is sleep, this is nutrition, this is exercise activity, this is stress management, and really, I think the other one is light. How we interact with our circadian biology or the sun. So, learn those things, maximize those things. Don't compromise. Don't give your. It means failure is not an option. You just got to say, hey, look, I will absolutely adopt the mindset. The people that succeed will eventually own it. They own the mindset that I am not. It's not acceptable for me to be obese, sick, tired, weak, whatever. It's not acceptable anymore to me, and I will never let that be acceptable. And I will do whatever it takes to not have that be me. I think that's what you have to do. You can get support. I mean, this is stuff we do at Rivera all the time. We end up teaching. We have so much educational material and so much support. That's a kind of a hack for that type of stuff. But I think, I mean, you got to think, what are the obstacles? Get the obstacles out of your way. Well, if the obstacles are, I'm tired all the time, well, check in your sleep. If the obstacles are, I'm sore all the time, I'm inflamed all the time, well, maybe your food's inflaming you. Well, yeah, but that works. But then I always backslide because, well, then get the crap out of your house. Get rid of the DoorDash, get rid of the Uber Eats, get rid of the BS that is causing you and facilitating your inability to be successful long term. Surround yourself with people either online or in real life that can motivate you, keep you accountable, answer your questions, those types of things. I mean, it's a process. I mean, and all of us can do it. I mean, I don't buy that anybody has an excuse. I mean, I got people that guys with no legs run marathons, I mean, there's a guy, they got him, Rob Jones. I mean, blew off both of his legs when he was I think in Iraq. He ran 30 marathons in 30 days with no legs. I mean, it's on prosthetics. And then,
That's
and then
why
cycled his
that's
bike
better than
across the
David
United States.
Goggins.
Yeah, and he cycled his bike across the United States with no legs,
Wow.
with prosthetic legs, and he
Mhm.
also was on the Paralympic rowing team. So these are the type of people that are
Yeah.
inspiring. And somebody says, "Well, I'm fatigued and my knee hurts." I mean, I listen to that, I'm like, "Well, yeah, it's there, but it's not the end of the world." I mean,
Yeah.
I'm not perfectly without impediments as well. I mean, that's sore stuff, but I make it happen because it's important.
Mhm. Yeah. I think that so much of it comes to priorities and an understanding of what is the other side of not doing it look like. It's pretty devastating. If you look at our aging population, or just not even the aging, just people are very, very sick, and they're young and sick and metabolically disastrous. And so what you're doing, Dr. Baker, is changing those lives and giving people the tools to do it. We have a little testimonial here from Brandon on Facebook. He says, 2 months and 3 weeks in, 35 pounds down so far, and hoping to get rid of my psoriatic arthritis. Congratulations. That's fantastic. I wanted to comment on something that somebody on YouTube is saying. Skeletal loading is essential. Carrying weights and vertical climbing exercises is not the same as parallel squats. That's an interesting comment to me. Can you speak to that, Dr. Baker? Can you elaborate on what he's saying with that? Because I think it's important.
He said vertical loading is important, I think is what he was.
Yes.
I have to
So
see-
basically, skeletal loading is essential.
Yeah, sure.
Carrying
Yeah.
weights and vertical climbing exercises is not the same as parallel squat. So maybe mixing it up. Can you?
Yeah,
talk
well,
about
I
that?
mean, yeah, I mean, we don't spend a lot of time. Well, I shouldn't say that. I mean, bilateral squatting motions, jumping, and things like that are foundational in that they can help you to get stronger, so that then you can later display those other properties. A lot of, like, if you look at developing athletes, like young kids, they're springy, they're bouncy, they've got good nervous system, all that type of thing. Maybe there's some technical things they learn, but most of them are lacking basic strength. To like, if you say I want to jump, I want a 40-inch vertical jump, you've got to have a requisite amount of strength to be able to do that. And so you can benefit from deadlifting, squatting, power cleans, those types of things. Those are very important. But then you also have to couple that with the impulsive type propulsive impulsive type activities, which might be one leg loading, like sprinting, for instance, is obviously a unilateral activity. You run on both feet, only one foot's in the ground and contact the ground at a time. And so you're constantly shifting, you're rotating through your center of mass through your hip, pelvis, and shoulders. And those things are, this is how we move in space in many ways. The other thing I will say is important is our joints need to experience force. One of the reasons, if you look, and I've looked in thousands of people's knees with a camera over the years as an orthopedic surgeon, one of the most common things I would see, and we would often see, is way in the back of the knee. You stick the camera in from the front, and you go into the back of the knee, and you look in the back part of the knee, and we often see wear back there very early. And why is that? Because no one is squatting down deep enough, so that cartilage sees no pressure. And when there's no pressure there, it just gets weak, and then it frays and breaks. And so we want to have that constant pressure. Obviously you want to do it in a controlled fashion. You want to do it, in a very safe manner, right? But at the end of the day, that is going to prepare you to handle those times when things aren't, predictable. It's like when you go out and play sports, there's a lot of wild movements and collisions and things get turned and twisted in all kinds of unpredictable ways. And if you've never been in those ranges of motion with strength around there, you're going to get injured much more easily. So this is why loading the joints in all, in various aspects of its range of motion, not just, squatting all the way deep and loading that joint, and squatting halfway down and a third of the way down and up, and shifting the positions and the ways you get into motions, rotational, side to side. Movement is all important. Those are all important things. But foundationally, when you're really like developing these big muscles, bilateral strengthening is still important. It's still very important. And yes, they're different and they have different aspects, but it's still a very important aspect of it. So I think squatting and deadlifting and jumping and cleaning and clean pulls and those things are important.
Do you do any rucking?
Yeah, I have. I mean, I technically I wear a weighted vest, so it's not a ruck, but I mean, it's the same, basically the same thing. And I've done that over the years. And I've done farmers. I've done heavy farmers walk. When I used to compete in strongman, I did farmers carries with 700 pounds in my hand. I would walk with 350 pounds in each hand for,
Wait, what? Hold on a second. Say that again.
Well, I mean, in my 30s, I competed in strongman.
Yeah,
I was a strongman competitor while I was doing my surgical residency, believe it or not. And I in fact, I won the Texas Strongest Man competition back in what year was, I think it was 2004. It was like in the 300-pound class. It was like per that weight class. I think I was the winner of that one in Texas, and then I think I took 5th at nationals that year. And then I saw, and then everybody's on steroids. I was like, I don't want to do this stuff. It's all a bunch of drug freaks. I'm not a fan of steroids, so I don't use them and never have. But yeah, I mean, I've always been, I got myself really, really strong in my 20s and 30s, and I'm still living off the benefits of that now in my late 50s and soon to be 60s. And I think
Yeah,
that's important. So
you invested heavily in those ages. I knew somebody that did strongman. Okay, so here's one more question. This is a good one from Lovely Linus. So I'm assuming it's a woman. I have little muscle and no mind muscle connection. Not sure what that means. You must have some because you can probably walk, right? Can I start with weightlifting or should I do body weight training first to learn coordination? So you feel like you're uncoordinated, basically. That's what I think you're saying.
well,
Okay.
I mean, it sounds like, yeah. I mean, a lot of people talk about the mind muscle connection in the context of bodybuilding. It's like really just feeling the muscle contract and thinking about the contraction of the muscle. And
Okay.
does that allow for greater recruitment of muscle fibers? The studies on that are mixed. I mean, there's some studies that show some muscle groups seem to respond better to mind muscle connection, whereas others don't. They're more reflexive. I think that, you can certainly groove, like squatting. You can learn how to squat without weight, right? That's nice, and then you can slowly add weight to that. But you shouldn't spend too much time without resistance. I mean, body weight exercise. I know there's people that are people and that stuff. They can be effective, and you can build muscle certainly doing push-ups, but it's a less efficient way to do so. If that is your goal, right?
What do you
And
think
it may
about
not be
something
your goal.
like Pilates, where it teaches you to really dial in on, very micro movements, and
So,
focus on your muscles, be aware
I've
of
never
them?
done I've never done Pilates. I've done yoga. I know they're not the same
Apparently,
thing.
it'll
I
kick
mean,
your butt.
well, I mean,
That's what I've heard.
I personally, again, given the goals that I have as being athletic, functional, be able to sprint, jump, and all those things,
Yeah.
Pilates would be a very inefficient way to get me there where I want to go, right?
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
I think if your goal is to, maybe not be able to do those things, the so-called
Mhm.
aging gracefully, which I think is BS. I think that's a wrong approach. Then yeah, you can do something like Pilates and yoga and
Mhm.
walking, all that stuff
Yeah.
that is not very stressful and peaceful and relaxes you. And it still sometimes can be hard because you're straining while you're holding an isometric hold or something like that. But I
Mhm.
mean, that at the end of the day is not going to make you faster, jump higher, sprint farther, which I
Mhm.
think those are the capacities that are the top of the
Okay.
food chain as far as human
Yeah.
performance goes. And I think we should be striving to reach those things because I think that the benefits, again, caveat, don't get hurt while you're doing this.
Right.
But if you can, like I said, if you can jump and hit a 40-inch box jump at age 60, you're way the hell beyond
Mhm.
99.999% of the world out there that's going to be able to do that. And it's achievable by probably a high percentage of the people if they would just
Mhm.
scientifically approach it.
Yeah. My question about Pilates, just for people in the chat, it wasn't about so much about strengthening as about awareness because you kind of really dial in to what your muscles are doing in Pilates. That's what my question was about specifically for the
Well, I mean,
lovely
there's, like
lioness.
we talk about proprioception, like when I sit down and my butt
Yeah.
contacts the seat, I get, I have this input, and I know where I am in space. Like I can close my eyes and touch my nose. That's called proprioception. I know where, like I said, I know where my muscles are in space because of what's called proprioception. And so
Mhm.
Pilates might, teach you that a little bit, but we have this
Okay.
innate proprioceptive
Yeah.
thing. But you can lose that. You lose that with time.
Mhm.
Um, but again, I think I'll just say I think there's more effective and more effective
Okay.
things to do with your time
Yeah.
if you have a limited time schedule.
Mhm.
I don't, again, given my goals, I got to get on the track. I got to be in the gym. And anything else beyond that, I would just run out of energy or time to be able to do all those things. So Pilates for me would
Mhm.
not be a useful way. It would not be a useful part of my time.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. So I think we're through the questions. We've gone longer than we usually go. And Dr. Baker, thank you for your time today. I know that you have your steak waiting for you. So
Let me I
uh,
saw a comment from a nurse in there that I just
oh
wanted to
yeah,
respond to. I can't
yeah.
remember, it's way in the back. I just remember reading it. I
Okay.
didn't read it all, but I mean, basically she was saying, I'm promoting exercise. She's thinking, well, we need to work on nutrition first, and that we need to make sure our older people are eating, 1.2 grams per kilogram of protein. I certainly agree. We need to all be eating probably more protein than certainly what the RDA recommends, and a lot of old people don't eat enough protein, and that's true. And it's kind of funny when I interviewed Jose Antonio, who's a pretty prominent protein researcher and one of the founders of the International Sports Science Nutrition, something like that. Anyway, he's big in that. I remember interviewing him a few years ago, and I said, "Hey, Jose, what about protein in like sedentary people? What are your thoughts on that?" And he goes, "I don't really care. I could care less about sedentary people. That's stupid to be sedentary." I would say you can concurrently increase somebody's activity level as you ramp up their protein, and I think they support each other. You don't have to say, "Well, I can't have this person walk or move or do anything until they reach their protein goals." I think that's unhelpful, because a lot of times activity drives protein hunger. It's like, like when I get done working out, I'm like, God, give me a steak. It's like there is some, because a lot of old people, they're like my mom, they just, oh, I'm full. I ate 2 eggs. I can barely eat it, because they don't do anything. They're
Hmm.
so inactive that their appetite is shit. Sorry about that. But I mean,
Hmm.
it's just they don't have enough appetite to justify eating the protein. So then they feel like they're force feeding themselves. So I think at the end of the day, I mean, obviously, lots of caveats here, depending on, is somebody in a walker? Can they barely walk? Are they in a wheelchair? But I mean, you can progress their activity level, and you can progress, even if you have to do isometric sitting in a wheelchair, you can start with that. You can start doing
Hmm.
something that will stimulate muscular contraction, which will then in turn drive the need for more protein, right? But yeah, it's
Mm,
absolutely.
yeah, yeah.
Again, I didn't focus on nutrition on this one. I'm talking about mostly exercise. But yes, foundationally, we need enough protein every day so that we can do the things that are going to benefit us functionally.
Yeah, yeah, that makes sense. We missed one question. If you could take a second to look at this one, that would be helpful. Um,
I don't know that I can find it.
so
Maybe
it
you know
it
where it is.
may
Let me just
I
read it.
found it. Yep. So it was a while back. Okay, so what would you suggest? And just for future reference, guys, put a triple Q in front of your question, and that way it stands out to us as a question. Um, what would you suggest or advise for carnivore diet with a permanent ileostomy and no gallbladder, also stage 3B kidney disease, besides more salt and water, also having a lot of leg cramps? Thanks. So that's Teresa on YouTube.
Okay.
It's a lot.
So, and this will be the last topic.
Yeah, he's
You
got to
know,
eat. He's got to. This guy's got to
well, it's
eat.
just late. It's already 5 p.m. here, and I got to get
It is.
my kids coming home, so I got to go play dad here for a little bit. But, um, so I'll answer the last question first, and maybe that'll go into the second one or the other two. The cramping thing. So cramps are interesting. There's not a lot of good data on cramping because it's hard to do randomized controlled trials on cramping, but there are some studies out there. And as part of the book I'm writing now, I did a lot of investigating on cramps. And so cramps, one of the things when I was in my surgical residency, we got signed. We were the team doc. So I got assigned to the local high school, and I go out to the football games and hang out on the sideline. If anybody got hurt, I'd do what I had to do to kind of make them better. And I remember, and this is in Texas. This was in Galveston, Texas, and it was hot in the summer and early season games. A lot of kids were cramping up, and they were all like, "Oh, I need some pickle juice. Give me the pickle juice." These all kids drinking pickle juice, and I was like, "This is the hell's with the pickle juice stuff." And I never really thought much about it, over the years. And I thought, well, that's probably pickle juice is salty. They're just getting some salt. That's why they like it, right? And
Mhm.
that's what a lot of people assume. Here's the deal about cramping. And there's athletic exercise-induced cramping, which is usually a situation where you're using up your energy, you're using up your electrolytes, your muscles are cramping up. Pickle juice has actually been studied, and it does actually it does shut down cramps in about 70% of the people very rapidly within 30 to 90 seconds. far too quick for it to be a electrolyte issue.
You're
I
talking
mean,
about dill pickle juice, not the sweet stuff.
well, just pick whatever, pickle juice or mustard,
Mhm.
some vinegary stuff, right?
Oh, like
Um,
mustard. Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, so that stuff, and the reason it does that is not because of some electrolyte. It's because we have receptors in our oropharynx and our esophagus, so in our mouth and throat, basically, and esophagus, that respond to capsaicin and
Mm.
some of the compounds in pickle juice. And there's something called TRP V1 and TRP C1, I believe, is the name of those. Again, I wrote this in a book. I was just researching. It was fun. And what happens is that stimulation in the mucosa of the throat leads to a strong neural inhibitory thing that shuts down the alpha neurons that are causing, that are contributing to the cramping. So that's practically, it's like if you start feeling a little crampy, you can try pickle juice or mustard or something like that, and that will work in about 75% of the people. Some people just don't have a really good receptors. They don't have very expressive receptors. But the underlying thing that's going on are a couple things. One, it could be, yes, an electrolyte imbalance, and some people will respond to taking a lot of sodium or a lot of magnesium, and that can help. But the other thing is, when the muscles are depleted of energy, either glycogen or intramuscular triglycerides, then you are more likely to see liberation of calcium from the sarcoplasmic reticula, which causes the muscles to cramp. And we have this neural inhibition that's released, and we have this just horrible, painful cramping that occurs. And so one of the thoughts is, you can restore the glycogen. You could eat a bunch of carbs. That's why some people do that. Again, if that's not something you're willing to do or able to do, then the other option is to consume a bunch of fat. And this is usually in a situation when you've depleted your muscles of fat. So it could be, I've exercised that day, I didn't eat enough, I'm kind of teetering on the verge of low glycogen, low intramuscular triglyceride, and I'm more prone to cramp. And so I could take the pickle juice, it could shut it down, but it's only going to last for about 30 minutes. The effect seems to wear off. The long-term answer is you've got to restore either the electrolytes or restore the energy. And if you're on a carnivore diet, then you're going to eat a bunch of fat. And I've seen protocols where people will use up to 400 grams of fat, which is an enormous amount of fat. You think about 400 grams of fat, that's like 3 sticks of butter or something like that. It's a ton of fat. So the better answer is don't let yourself get depleted. So if you're going to exercise, making sure you're consuming enough electrolytes, taking in enough energy so that doesn't occur. I can't remember the other beginning parts of the question, but the cramping start. But what should I eat? As somebody without no gallbladder, ileostomy.
Yeah, the gallbladder and the
yeah. So the other thing, again, ileostomy is, she probably knows that you have issues with fluid management. And one of the jobs of the colon, and this person no longer has a colon, is to reabsorb electrolytes. So again, you're going to be in a situation where electrolytes are very critical, staying on top of that. And then with the gallbladder is usually not that big of an issue for most people. I mean, if you've had a chronically, have had your gallbladder out for many, many years, then you still have bile production. You have what's called a pseudo gallbladder that occurs at the junction where the common bile duct enters the duodenum, and there's usually a little mini reservoir that kind of develops over time. And so it might be that if it hasn't to the point, you just might have to have smaller meals. Maybe instead of eating once or twice a day, you're eating 3-4 times a day. Smaller meals, still get enough fat, still get enough electrolyte and that stuff. And then again, even though you don't have a gallbladder, even though you have an ileostomy, I'd still say get out there, exercise, do all the things that are important. Those are not excuses for that.
Well, Dr. Baker, fantastic session of Healing America and Beyond. Wonderful. Hopefully we will get back to you guys maybe one more time before the new year to give you some answers and inspiration as we come into 2026. Can you believe we're almost in 2026? And don't forget, check out Revero.com if you are looking to make some changes, there's no time like the present. Don't wait till the first of the year. You're like, you know, wellness, being healthy doesn't have to wait for the change of the year. And then also remember that you can go to marygracemedia.com to join my mailing list, check out some of our sponsors over there. And that if you get on the mailing list, you can get notified again when we go live here. And we will not spam you. We won't sell your information, nothing like that. Just go over there and check it out. And then, of course, please support our sponsors over at griddownchowdown.com. Get your American grown, American processed, freeze dried beef. Just pour water in it, reconstitute it. You got your ground beef, and it's good for saving. It's good for eating whenever you're on the run, whatever you need to do. They also have beef jerky over there. You don't have to reconstitute that. You just eat it out of the pack. So please support them. Use promo code Mary Grace. And I think that's it for now. And Dr. Baker, any last words before we sign off?
Well, it's a pleasure talking to everybody. Glad I got to, answer some questions here. Remember, empower yourself. If you're sick, you can get better. Don't rely on it.
Excellent.
Don't take your doctor's word that there's nothing you can do and just take pills the rest of your life. That's total nonsense.
100%.
And
100%.
don't also fall for the BS that as you get old, you got to just take it easy and, go for walks and drink coffee and sit on the porch. Do more. Okay.
Exactly. Yes. And that's what we're doing over here in our house. And as always, I like to tell people, go outside, look at the sky, touch some grass, talk to God, put your phone down, and just be and get fit. And we will see you back here again for another episode of Healing America and Beyond with Mary Grace and Dr. Sean Baker. Everybody have a wonderful evening and a wonderful weekend. And ACC championships coming up. Go Hoos. Yay. Everybody